Hey, what's up guys? In this video we are going to be checking out a classic relic of the past, and this is QuadraSID by ReFX. And what this is an emulation of the sound that would come out of a computer in the 80s called a Commodore 64. And the chip that produced all the sound was a SID chip, which is like, a mini synthesizer sound processor on a chip. It's quite primitive by today's standards, but at the time it was very advanced. And yeah, ReFX released a plugin version of the QuadraSID or the SID chip emulation, and it's since been discontinued and forgotten about. And this VST was, super exciting for me because I really liked the sounds that it made, and it was a journey to figure out, the odds and ends of this thing. It's a really wacky synth, but you can get some really interesting results. And there were some, really new and exciting things built within it that made it really special and advanced for the time. So yeah, and it came out in yeah, I remember using this in like 2007, and could do some really cool things. So yeah, let's check it out. So I'm gonna init the preset, and basically the chip, as far as I know, I'm not an expert or a historian or a computer scientist, but the idea was it could only play one waveform at a time, and it had very, not it had the ability to do pulse width modulation, but there was a trick that you would do where you would arpeggiate the sounds really quickly, and you would get chords essentially. But I'll explain that when I get there. So basically, right off the bat, you got a saw, you got triangle, and then you have your pulse, which isn't doing much of anything right now. You actually need to wiggle it around, and then we have the white noise, which is pitched, and I believe it had a filter on it, so you could make some really cool like percussion and things like that. Love that. So yeah, from here, you'd have like a single ADSR with the ability to kind of have the bug that's in the actual chip itself. You can emulate that, or you can not emulate it to be with the new age or whatever. But yeah, right now we can play more than one note at a time because we're in the digital age. But yeah, let's hop into something that you'd want to do with a SID is you have your pulse, and you'd actually want to give it some pulse width modulation. So the modulation matrix is down here, and it can be mapped to a bunch of things. But yeah, let's map it to LFO 1. And this is actually where you set the amount. It's really interesting. But yeah, we're going to have the min and the max. And let's go to the LFO section. We have LFO 1. We have speed. You can't clock it, which is fine. So there's no like depth. There's just a min and a max value, which is actually pretty cool. Right, so you can go all the way up to like silence almost. Or I'm not really sure. Yeah. You can get right up there with the pulse width. Right, and that is the pulse width. You can do other things with the LFO, which I will get into a little bit later. The envelopes, and this is something that's really interesting to me, is these envelopes were very advanced for the time because you could actually draw them in and things like that. It was like cool, you know what I mean? You could do really interesting things with this. So yeah, let's take a look at the envelope 1. Let's map it to pitch, I guess. Let's do that. And they're a little bit, yeah, tricky. You have to turn off loop. Right, and you can do stuff with that. It's like super cool. Right, they can be long as well. But yeah, it was like the first synth that I came across where you could actually draw in the envelopes. Right, you could do stuff with that. Let's get into another cool thing. And this is what I got. This is when I was like, whoa, like this is getting complicated. You had the ability to combine modulation sources into one thing. So you could have a very complex, because in the modulation matrix in here, you could only have one thing modulating one thing. And yeah, as far as I know, you could have, you know, all these things kind of put together. You could have combiners going into combiners. I'll give you an example of what's going on here. So we have LFO 1 and envelope 1, right? And yeah, we will, I guess, add those together. Let's get envelope 1. Let's just draw something in like so. And we'll have it on something obvious like the pitch. So the pitch will be, yeah, combiner 1, and we'll have it set to something like that. Right? So from here, right, we have the combiner LFO 1 and envelope 1 put together. Let's get the LFO going. Right, and that's like pretty extreme because like we're maxing it out, but let's do stuff like this. Right, and it's maxing out, so let's go multiply maybe. Right, what does that do? Right, you can get some like more interesting things. You can invert, like in Photoshop, and then mix them, which would be a little bit more appropriate, I guess. Right, you can do that, and you know, like you can even, yeah, I guess we'll go. Yeah, anyway, like you can do like all these kind of combining factors. You can even have, yeah, you can combine combinations with other combinations. And yeah, let's get that mapped to combo 5. And let's look at, yeah, we'll mix those. And then LFO 3. which can get pretty annoying pretty quickly, so I'll just stop. But the idea is there. Right? You can just do like really interesting kind of layering things. So one of the cool things is the working within the limitations of the SID chip in general. So the idea is it can't play chords. The original SID chip, as far as I know, it couldn't play chords. So what it would do is it would cycle through waveforms very quickly. And yeah, let's get like a chord going on here. And these are all going to be saws. You can also change them as well. Right, and let's get the speed going. It's not going to do anything because we need to get a chord in there. So we'll transpose this up 7 and then this up 3. Right? Right, now we have a chord. Right, pretty neat. And then we can change it. Right, you can get some really cool things. And I love doing this back in the day. And I'm going to sync that so it restarts. Right, and you can adjust the speed as well. and things like that. And that with the release is just really cool. You can add in more waves, I imagine, and things like that. I'll take those out. And yeah, what else you can do? You can add even more in there, or whatever. Or you can get like a bass in there. Just, I don't know, I'm just experimenting at this point. But yeah, you have that and then speed it up. Right, you can get, you know, something going on there. And yeah, just kind of go to town with that. And, you know, it's one of those fun things. Anyway, so that is QuadraSID. Hope you enjoyed the video. Oh, I forgot something that's really cool. So let's get pitch with LFO 1. Right, so now just let's get LFO 1 going. You can adjust the granularity of the LFOs to get an interesting stepping response. Right, and that was fun as well. And you can, that would have been more appropriate if I used that with the combiner, but I'll leave that to you. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned stuff. Take care and have a good one.